Welcome, NoDQ Galaxy, for this week's NoDQ review, and I am Virtue, here with Rowdy, Aaron Rift, Big Vito LaGrasso. I always get your name wrong, man. My bad.
Listen, Kurt Angle, you better get things straight, right? Control yourself, Kurt.
Vito McCran and Jexy. Jexy, we're going to start with you. How's it going?
Always good. Chilling, styling, profiling, ready to rock and roll.
Cool. Same here. Hey, it's Elimination Chamber week. Aaron, how's it going?
I'm super. Thanks for asking. I'm looking forward to Elimination Chamber despite WWE not really doing the best hype job. I still think it'll be a good show, even if it's a bit predictable, but we will talk about the Chamber matches, give our predictions, and see if maybe there'll be a few twists. I hope so. I hope we get to see something that people are not expecting. I'm not going to have a false hope on that, but we'll see what happens, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes.
Well, we got the contract signing, so Vito, how's it going, man?
Everything is going good. I think we're going to have a very interesting show. I think we're going to have some surprise picks in this Elimination Chamber. I think we're going to have some good topics to talk about. There's a couple of hot topics for all the people wanting to know in the show. Of course, we're going to go step by step, blow by blow, give you all our analytic views. And for all those people out there, we are going to start the show right now. Virtue, why don't you take it away?
So, Elimination Chamber is Sunday, and we have the two big Elimination Chamber matches that I want to talk about. Man, there's so many wrestlers here. I got to actually cheat. So, we're going to start with ladies first, Jexy. The women's match. We have Alexa Bliss defending the title, Bayley, Mandy Rose, Mickie James, Sonya Deville, and Sasha Banks. So, who do you think is going to win this match and go on to WrestleMania as the Raw Women's Champion?
I think Lexa's going to retain. I don't feel like neither Mandy Rose or Sonya have either got the credibility to have a match at WrestleMania, or really people who actually would want to watch that. They're still developing. They're coming along fine, but I'm going to give it to Alexa.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it feels pretty predictable. Aaron, what's your thoughts?
Well, I did a poll on NoDQ.com, and surprise, surprise, Alexa is the overwhelming favorite to win the match, as is Roman Reigns for the men's match. And the funny thing is, there was a report out last week that WWE purposely is doing multi-person matches for these pay-per-views, Elimination Chamber and Fastlane, as a way to try and throw off people and make them think something different might happen. But it doesn't seem to be working because everyone is pretty much predicting Reigns and Alexa to win the chamber matches. So I have to go with Alexa, and same thing with the men's match. I'm going to have to go with Reigns, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. Let's see if Vito has a different opinion regarding the women's match.
Well, let's see, guys. Alexa is the odds-on favorite to win it, and she does deserve it because she's carried that belt. I don't think she should have dropped it when she did. She should have held it the whole way through and been on a consecutive day streak because she's earned the right to. With the girls that are in there, I would think that the surprise winner is going to be the MMA girl because her strikes look good. She looks solid in the ring. Her mic skills might not be developed yet, but neither was Roman Reigns, neither was John Cena, neither was anybody else. But she has that credibility as far as being legitimate in the ring. I think if she goes in more singles matches and develops, she can develop herself into a good singles. So I'm saying the sleeper is the MMA girl. I say the odds-on favorite is Alexa Bliss. I think the bat out of hell that'll win it would be Sasha Banks. Yeah. So the long shot is Sasha Banks, MMA girl, the sleeper, Alexa Bliss.
Now remember, I'm going to go Alexa Bliss. It's obvious, and we do have Raw the night after. So if WWE wants to spice things up, have Sasha Banks win it. And I'm picking her for this very reason. Alexa gets a rematch the next night on Raw, and like Sasha always does, loses the title on Raw right back. And again, just because it's so predictable. I mean, this pay-per-view isn't even close to being sold out. I mean, maybe I haven't been keeping track, but I mean, what do we got? Asuka versus Nia Jax also, plus Rousey is in the house. So there's a lot of females, on this show, but I'm going to go with Alexa by default.
I would hate to see Alexa lose this and then win it back on Monday Night Raw. I think that is ridiculous. It takes away credibility from the belt. And if you're going to drop the strap, people, always drop it at a house show, because then what? It makes you want to go to the house show because you never know what you're going to see.
I like that viewpoint, and I think you're right. I think Alexa should be booked as strong as possible heading into WrestleMania.
It does scare me.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Go ahead,
it does scare me a little bit because after Rumble, Stephanie McMahon actually came out the next night and she said to Asuka that Alexa may not even be the champion going into WrestleMania. So I don't know if that's like a little foreshadowing or if she's just saying that to build to the storyline, but I kind of hope not at the same time.
Yeah, I just feel like WWE's trying to throw people off, and that's why they're doing the multi-person matches to have different possibilities on the table. But I still feel the obvious outcomes are going to be the ones that end up going down. So, Virtue, What about the men's match?
Well, okay, the men's match. So we have 7 participants here: John Cena, Braun Strowman, The Miz, Roman Reigns, Finn Balor, Seth Rollins, and Elias. And Aaron, I saw a big smile on your face right there when I said Elias. Aaron, I'll start with you. You said Roman, but anything you want to add to this? I mean, is it going to get interesting?
Well, my big question, as I talked about last week, and we could elaborate more on that for this video, is how is Braun Strowman going to be eliminated from this match? That's the big question. After being booked so strong as of late, how will he end up losing? Will Kane get involved? Will Kane come out from under the ring or something like that? I'm just curious about that, and curious to see what you guys think about that, and how Strowman's going to be eliminated, how Cena's going to be eliminated. Cena, I could just see him getting pinned by Strowman, most likely. And Elias might be the first one out. Sorry, Virtue. Sorry
he's the last one in his pod's opening last, so
he'll be the first one out. But here's my little stipulation. If Roman Reigns, I'm stealing this from you, Virtue, by the way. If Roman Reigns does not win the Elimination Chamber match, I will give away a free NoDQ.com t-shirt of the person's choosing. One random person that retweets me on Twitter or likes the tweet.
Nice.
And Roman Reigns does not win, that person, that one random person will get a free NoDQ.com t-shirt of their choosing.
Well done, Aaron. Now, I'm not going to do one for this event since you're doing that. I'm saving my next one for WrestleMania.
All right.
Vito, what's your thoughts on this with 7?
All right, guys. All right. Now, you got Braun Strowman, who has been booked strong, and you say he's the next guy in line for a title shot, okay? Now, does that mean that he has to win this match to go to WrestleMania? I don't think so. I think after this pay-per-view, he's the next guy in line for a singles match with Brock Lesnar for the title. Okay? Roman Reigns, everybody is like, okay, he's been on an up and down lately where he's up, he's down, he's losing to The Miz, he's losing, he's winning, he's all over the place. He's back with the Shield. They kind of got him bouncing around. So you don't know where they're going to go. You know Cena's not going to be in the title, going to be in the mix for the title. They're not going to definitely put Finn Balor in there. Seth Rollins is definitely already had his run at the top against Lesnar, and it's not going to be that believable because he doesn't have the authority behind him. So, I mean, I'd say the sleeper is going to be Elias, the sleeper. I say the guy who's going to win is going to be The Miz. Not that it's not going to be the popular choice because everybody wants to see Strowman, but having the strongest champion against the strongest champion, that's something that hasn't been done. And if they do elevate The Miz because he can talk, he does have the credibility, he can wrestle, he does carry a good persona, and he beats Lesnar, that elevates him up to the stratosphere where he needs to be, and gives him the credibility to carry that title for a long time. Because we've seen it bounce around, we've seen guys come and go, but have we seen The Miz actually have that WrestleMania moment going in as a champion and leaving as champion? That's the thing. Elias is the sleeper. Miz the winner. And definitely Finn Balor a loser.
Now, wait a minute. I have a question here. So if you were betting money on this match, you would put your money on The Miz. Is this what I'm understanding here?
I would put my money on The Miz. I think The Miz will pull it out somehow because he's that good. And they don't have... Guys, you got to remember something. It's not about wins and losses and who they're going to put in the match. It's about somebody who can carry the company on their back and be the face of the company. He's been doing it for over 10 years. He already headlined in WrestleMania. He hasn't been in that spot. And with all his movies that have been done, all the pressure that he's had, making the belt he has credible and being the guy, what's to say he can't be the guy, the man? Nobody, and like I said, Roman Reigns, it's just not there. It's not his year to be a main event this year. It's not his year. I know he's main evented. I just don't see it. Fresh start, The Miz.
All right.
Wow, very interesting pick. And Vito, I'm telling you what, when I want Miz and Strowman, right? But I'm trying to be realistic about it. So before I give you my scenario to the end of this match, Jexy, go for it.
I feel like in some ways it's going to be pretty much obvious what we should expect as far as the in-ring action. I think you're going to see a lot of high spots from Finn and Seth. I expect Roman and Braun to crash, bang, boom through everything. How far out is Samoa Joe from returning? Would it be something...
Mid-March. I don't think we're going to see him on the pay-per-view. But you never know. He could have possibly show up and interfere. But, I mean...
Why would he show up? Why would he show up?
To interfere. That was just one of my original thinking, is that maybe he would be somebody who would come out from under the ring and interfere, but I wasn't quite sure how long it was until he would come back. I think that Roman would be the safe choice, but I feel like it will ultimately be Braun Strowman. Looking at it, I think Miz will get his shot at the title, but I feel like it's going to be Strowman takes it from Lesnar, Roman takes it from Braun, and then Miz takes it from Roman. That's kind of how I see it playing out in the next couple of months leading up. But I'm going to say Strowman.
All right. So Miz.
Something else.
Go ahead.
Something else real quick, too. Would it be cool to see Elias just sitting in the pod playing his guitar?
Yes. Singing a song while they're wrestling. I like it.
Yeah.
And mic'd up,
Yeah.
too. But.
Hey, that's pretty good. And having Pete Dunne go with a little cap and collecting nickels.
It's not far-fetched, right?
Now you guys are adding somebody to come out from the ring. I think what we all have, I'm going to let you say go first person, and I'm going to tell you my surprise to come out.
All right. Well, so Miz, Rollins, Balor, they're going to be gone. And Elias, since his pod opens last, he's going to be gone. So I'm looking at Strowman, Cena, and Roman Reigns to end this match. And if these rumors are true, and this has happened before at the Elimination Chamber, I think it assisted Chris Jericho in a match, the lights will go out. The Undertaker's either going to appear in the ring, come up from the bottom, and you'd think he'd go for Roman. He's going to take Cena out. Cena will be out of that match. It will come down to Roman and Strowman. The only person going to be Strowman, or Strowman won't be buried, Spear. Roman wins the match, goes on to WrestleMania in that scenario. And again, it could take 2 or 3 spears before he pins Strowman. That's how I'm going with it. Taker comes in and takes out Cena.
I got you at that. That was my choice. But now I'm going to ask you a question that I've been saying all along. After Strowman loses, what do you do with Strowman? Again,
The Miz.
Where do you put him? He already went up, and then he came to up.
What would you do with him?
I would put the belt on him.
Yeah, me too.
But in a scenario he doesn't win the Elimination Chamber match like you predict, what would you do as plan B for Miz?
The plan B for Miz, he's going to go back and do the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah.
He's got something. So he's going to run with that. That's his gig. Putting Miz in the title picture to go to WrestleMania to fight Lesnar, that brings him to the top level because Reigns, you've had him there, and he's not connecting. Strowman, he's the guy who needs to get over the hump. He's the guy who needs a title. He's the guy he needs to validate himself. And if they stop making him look like a goof and be legit, he loses this Elimination Chamber, guys. There's no place for him to go because he already fought Reigns. He already fought with Brock, and you saw the result of that three-way. He fought with Kane. There are no big guys for him to mess with.
Yeah. Well, I could see him potentially in the mixed tag team match if the rumors are true about that. Ronda Rousey and a partner against Triple H and Stephanie. Remember Survivor Series? There was a little bit of some kind of tease with Triple H and Braun Strowman. So maybe Strowman will be Rousey's partner for WrestleMania, and then Miz will face Finn Balor for the IC title at WrestleMania. I could see that as a possibility.
But what credibility does Strowman get, and what does Strowman get out of it by beating Triple H?
Well, it's the biggest pay-per-view of the year, and you got a lot of people watching it, and it's going to get the mainstream headlines. I think Braun Strowman raising hands with Ronda Rousey will give him some credibility, much like Steve Austin and Mike Tyson.
Could Strowman and Roman both win this match and have to face Lesnar in a triple threat?
Like I said, that would be good. But you're talking about, I'm not doubting what you're saying from a business standpoint.
Right.
And like I'm talking, you got a good perspective on the business side. But I'm talking individually as a wrestler, like beating Triple H when he already choked him out and he let them and Triple H already cowered out. He doesn't need that rub. He needs that supreme rub.
I agree on that.
He needs that supreme rub. And the ideas you guys have are very good. But you're talking about an individual trying to get over that hump. He's like, I'll use myself as an example, okay? In WCW, I kept climbing the ladder, and I kept climbing the ladder. And I was right at the tip because I was with Nash, I was with Goldberg, I was with Steiner. I was right there to be over and just to get over. And it just seemed like whoever was riding or whatever, I could not get over that hump. When I was wearing the dress in WWE, I climbed, and I again attained that status to where, okay, he's going to finally do it, and then it doesn't happen. How many times can you go up and then come down and then go up again? Strowman has been up and down. They need to make it either a concrete effort to get him over,
right,
or they're just going to make him a mid-card guy who's going to go up and down, come out and do the simpleton run to the ring, crush some people, and leave.
Kind of like Big Show, where they would push Big Show and then stop pushing him and just go back and forth, where it got to the point where people stopped really caring about Big Show, even though Big Show had the size and the credibility to be a major star in WWE. They kind of dropped the ball with him, I think, on several occasions.
Exactly. And then you look at the Great Khali, guys. There's another 7-foot monster. And if you were to meet the Great Khali on the street, do you think a Finn Balor's going to whoop his ass, or an AJ Styles, or a Rollins, or any of those guys are going to fight the Great Khali? No, but the WWE made him do the job. Oh, he hurt his leg. Ain't nobody breaking that man's leg. All right, Great Khali hits you once, you're going down. I actually used to wrestle with him down in Deep South. He's got giant hands. He's very strong. You know what I mean? And he's a big man. There's no way for you, even at the toughest son of a bitch in the world, is going to have a hard time getting him down if he really goes.
That reminds me of Harvey Whippleman standing next to Giant Gonzalez. Finn Balor next to Great Khali.
Exactly. And we all saw Finn Balor. We thought Shawn Michaels was small back in the day. And then you see Finn Balor stand next to Shawn Michaels, and Finn Balor looked like a midget compared to Shawn Michaels.
Yeah. Heck, Vito, I'd be all for Strowman winning this thing and going on and beating Lesnar at WrestleMania for the title.
I agree on that.
In actuality, everyone's like, virtues pro Reigns and this and that. Look, if I really said what I wanted, it would be that. But maybe because I follow the news a lot and read what Aaron posts, We know what Vince McMahon's vision is.
It's a matter of what you want to see versus what you think is going to happen.
Yeah.
I would like to see Strowman win, but I think Reigns is going to win.
So are you going to go Strowman? Or you went Miz. Are you going to stick with him as your top choice, or you want to go to Strowman before?
No, I'm gonna stick with Miz. I'm gonna.
Okay.
You talk now. I'm talking business here.
Yeah.
I'm talking the Miz. We're talking promos. We're talking Heyman against the Miz. 3-4 months of promos going back and forth.
That'd be great. I mean, that really would be great.
That's business, and that's going to draw money, right? You're talking who deserves the title, who deserves the title shot. I'm not saying the Miz doesn't. I'm saying Strowman needs it.
Right.
Yeah.
I would even give you guys the better flip here, okay? And this is something like, Strowman. What happens if Heyman flips a switch and he backdoors on Lesnar, and that's his new guy, because everybody knows that Lesnar wants to go back to UFC. So what happens if Heyman decides he's going to flip a switch, has a new monster. Brock, you're good, but you're not that good. And all of a sudden, he friggin' turns on he turns on Lesnar, and Strowman gets the win, and there he walks off with Strowman, and he's got his new wrecking machine.
I wouldn't mind seeing that with Reigns, actually, where Heyman joins up with Roman Reigns, and Reigns actually goes full-fledged heel instead of being this John Cena type character.
And other than what, CM Punk and Brock Lesnar, everything else with Paul has fizzled out. I mean, obviously Curtis Axel and Cesaro, and was it Ryback for a little bit? I don't even remember who the Heyman
But
guys
Punk was the one other success
Punk
story.
and Lesnar. I mean, these are all very interesting scenarios, and you know what? It would be nice to be swerved on Sunday.
And what about
I wouldn't say swerved, but you know.
Yeah.
What I mean.
What about Ronda Rousey with Paul Heyman? I've seen people talk about that online and on NoDQ.com. Do you think that Ronda needs him, Jexy? What do you think? You're shaking your head.
I don't want to see that. No, she needs to stand on her own. She needs to learn to talk on her own, and she needs to back up her actions with, back up her words with her actions. No.
There you have it.
From my standpoint, I don't know. I mean, until we need to see Rousey perform.
Good.
So I wonder if this contract signing, I'd like to see, even though it's just a contract signing, I'd like to see something from her. Charisma. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm a little intrigued. Vito, as plain and simple as this seems, are you a little bit intrigued to see how Rousey's going to handle this crowd and doing this?
You already seen her perform at WrestleMania when she was in there with Triple H and Stephanie. She handled herself great, and she had no training. So what do you think with a little bit of training she could do when she handled it and she's standing there with The Rock, Triple H, Stephanie? She's friggin' hip tossing Triple H. She's got Stephanie.
That's all Triple H taking that, though.
No, but no, come on. You're supposed to work together, people, in the ring and make music, okay? You want to see her be a badass, but when she had to step to Stephanie, and Stephanie is the head, supposed to be a tough bitch, Stephanie bowed down, and she wasn't that tough. Now, you want to ask me what match I want to see at WrestleMania? Everybody overlooked this. Why not put Stephanie and Ronda Rousey in there together?
And I'll tell you what, Vito, I would love to see Stephanie get color. That would be awesome.
Now, Stephanie can legit wrestle, and you saw the last match she had with one of the Bella girls, and she called that whole match, and she did very good. She had that natural ability like Shane. She goes in there, she knows the business, she knows how to work, and she could work like a stiff heel. So you talk about Rousey and Stephanie McMahon mixing it up. That's a main event match. You don't need Asuka and all these little ones. You're talking about two main names, Ronda Rousey, Stephanie McMahon. Now you telling me that's not going to sell tickets and lights?
Yeah, but I can understand them putting Triple H in there and possibly The Rock. I know there's talk about The Rock possibly being in that match. Obviously, if you can get The Rock, you want The Rock in that match, and we'll see what happens. I've also heard rumors about Kurt Angle possibly being Ronda's partner. So, I mean, I guess it just depends on what can generate the most mainstream headlines.
Now, guys, I can't see a older guy going with one of the young girls. I don't see it happening. I don't see a Kurt Angle going with Rousey. I don't see a Paul Heyman going with Rousey. It's it's not what we see, and it's not the wrestling we're used to. We're seeing Paul Heyman be a heel for a big heel. You know, for him to be with a girl or a female, it's like him trying to manage Charlotte Flair. She don't need it. You know what I mean? If he was to try and manage Sasha Banks, don't need it. Even when Ric Flair was managing Charlotte, Ric Flair got in the way a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody, the focus was there. I just don't see. I think Rousey is going to handle herself. I think the match that'll make her and establish her will be a Stephanie McMahon match, not against anybody else. Remember, we got to start her off. You're starting her off on the mainstream. She is Ronda Rousey, a former UFC champion. She's no slouch. But here's the queen of the WWE. This is her yard, and ain't nobody going to take her lightning. Right. So if you're going to start it like that, the concept of The Rock, the concept of Triple H in there, they're all good, guys. But remember what happened with Asuka when they put Asuka in there with my girl
Emma,
and I got mad because Emma whooped her ass, and Emma friggin' showed herself. And then Monday night again, Emma friggin' again whooped her ass. And then Emma got fired. Why? Because she showed up the next coming of what was supposed to be. Instead of giving the girl the build-up matches, okay. But now you have somebody in there who knows the game. You got somebody who knows credibility. You got somebody in there who's the queen from USC and the queen of wrestling. And when you make them collide, just like Mayweather and McGregor, and you put them together, you're going to draw money. Because the smack talk, they can both talk. They're both cat fighters. They're both going to talk smack. Both of them can whip, Stephanie always smack guys. Ronda Rousey's been known to handle some men. So it'll be a good fight. I think that's the way they're going to go. If WWE is listening, Stephanie McMahon, Ronda Rousey, WrestleMania, book it.
I think I think a lot of the NoDQ audience does not like the idea of a one-on-one match just because they're not a fan of Stephanie being in a high-profile match like that and having the spotlight. And is it really believable that Stephanie could put up a fight with Ronda Rousey? I mean, that's my whole credibility issue. Like, if I saw that match, I think that Ronda would wipe the floor with Stephanie and just tap her out in 20 seconds, and that would be it.
But think about it. That would be brilliant, Aaron.
I would be fine with that.
Did. That's what Rousey did in her run.
Some people might hate it, though. Some people might not like the fact that they do all the build-up for a 20-second match or whatever.
Yeah. Now, Jesse, when you saw Stephanie in there with one of the Bella twins, and you saw that match, didn't that intrigue you enough to say, hey, one of the Bella twins has a chance to whoop ass?
Sure.
Right? So it gave you intrigue. So, I mean, Stephanie would come in as the underdog because nobody would believe that Stephanie can beat Ronda Rousey. But you know what's surprising? Stephanie can handle herself, and if she gives Rousey a run for the money, eventually tapping out or going, she's the right person to do the job for her.
Sure, she has a lifelong pedigree. I mean, that wrestling is her business. That's what she does. That's what she was born into.
That's true. And, it's before too long we're going to see the grandchildren showing up on TV.
Yeah.
You know it.
But
unless they sell the company. A lot of stocks have been flying lately.
We can talk about this the rest of the show, but let's move on. And last Thursday, Aaron, Rich Swann was finally released by WWE. And, there is so much that went through my mind when I found out. So Enzo had to be released first, right? The scapegoat. Why didn't they release Rich Swann back when that happened? I'm not saying that they did it because of, the color. But, Vito, what are your thoughts on why they released Rich Swann and the fact that it took so long?
Guys, this is such total bullshit. If you don't have a tape and you're not arrested and convicted and you don't have a felony and you don't have all these things, you mean to tell me accidents don't happen? It's the same thing like the wellness policy. You get 1 strike, 2 strike, 3 strikes, you're out. I'm not saying domestic violence in any way, shape, or form is acceptable in today's society. I'm not condoning it. But if the charges are cleared and there's nothing for them to do, the guy already served the suspension. Why does it cost him his job? Perfect example in football. Eskel Elliott. The NFL examiner said there's nothing there. He does not deserve to be suspended. What did the commissioner do? Suspended him for 6 games. The guy fought it because their investigators said he doesn't deserve to be suspended. But the commissioner wanted to make a point. The WWE is trying to have those NFL rules in their game and trying to enforce the same rules. Yeah. But if you're not going to enforce the same rules like for everybody else, like having a union, having a concussion protocol, settling your lawsuit or your litigation, and you're not going to go full Monty, you can't be the NFL. So how are you going to do the same as the NFL? If you're a sports entertainment group, why are you taking such drastic measures? If everybody you say is an actor, they're not an athlete. You said they're entertainers. So why would you fire somebody off your movie crew if it's not relevant in what happens today? Mind you, domestic violence is not acceptable. Any kind of strikes or hitting or doing stuff is not acceptable in anybody's society. Does it constitute the fact that somebody needs to lose their job? I doubt it is a color thing. Okay? Now, the fact that it's Rich Swann and his wife and not a girlfriend.
And he didn't withhold anything, right, from WWE like Enzo did.
Right.
No. Enzo, right? Everybody loves Enzo. Some wackadoo comes out, yeah, how you doing? I was with Enzo. He did this. He did that. He raped me, blah, blah, blah. Now, has anybody heard under any investigation for Enzo, heard a peep from Enzo, heard anything? The guy lost his job on a spot. All this speculation, but now you're talking about rape. Rape and domestic violence is 2 different things. Rape goes up here, domestic violence is here. As soon as you heard the word rape, okay, we don't need you. It's just like Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit is a great film. Now, if Chris Benoit would have smacked his wife, okay, we still have him in the record books. He's still a great wrestler. Killed his family, he's abolished. Hulk Hogan, sex tape, talk about things, make a bad influence. What they do? They abolished him. Rick Swann, okay? He didn't get convicted. Nothing happened, according to police reports. And he loses his job. Enzo, that bleep. But do you know how many, I'm going to say this, behind the door, sexual harassment charges are made in companies all around the world that we don't hear about, but people keep their jobs. How about all the behind-the-scenes stuff that happened in all different companies all around the world that nothing happened? It could be in a computer company. It can be in a cosmetics company. You see it today in our society on the news with Bill Maher in the NFL, right? Not so much in basketball, not so much in baseball. The NFL is the one that gets the spotlight. And here you have the WWE trying to portray themselves as being that strong against that kind of, environment, which is good for them. But if you're going to fire somebody, fire them for the right reasons and fire them because they were convicted, they went to jail. Thank you. You're going to make a guy lose his job because he had a blip. What happens if Stephanie and Triple H get into a fight? It winds up in a barn or an Irish pub. And Triple H smacks Stephanie, gets arrested. It hits the news. Now, is Triple H going to lose his job? Will he get fired? Will he resign from NXT? That's the same concept.
Very interesting question.
Yeah. Aaron, what's your thoughts on good points, Vito? And it's just weird that they waited so long to release Rich Swann. And it's funny that maybe took the Enzo incident and firing him to do it. So, Aaron, what are your thoughts in general on why they waited so long?
Well, that very well could be the point. And I feel like what Vito said is very accurate about Enzo and his situation, and they had to take action, obviously, with Enzo right away. With Swann, I think it was just a matter of this was something that was going to happen, but maybe WWE didn't want to do both so close to each other, in such a short period of time. They waited a few weeks and then let him go. And unfortunately, I feel that that Swann is just a victim of the current political climate, not just in WWE, but in the world, period. And there's no such thing as 3 strikes and you're out anymore. It's basically you're replaceable. There's other guys that want your spot. WWE has a lot of guys available to take Swann's spot. As good as Swann is as a performer, let's face it, he is replaceable. People have already come in. They got newcomers in NXT, and they got new people in the 205 Live tournament. So Swann is already forgotten about, and unfortunately, he's expendable. WWE can cut him loose, and one little slip up, and you're gone. Unfortunately, that's the nature of WWE right now. You make one mistake, and it could cost you your entire career with the company. Will he be brought back one day? I would not rule it out. I think it's a possibility that they might bring him back. Maybe they're just going to wait for the heat to die down. You know, there's the Enzo thing, which possibly played a role in WWE deciding to get rid of him. They don't want the negative publicity, even though he was not charged for a crime. And like Vito said, it's BS, you know. The police dropped the charges. He should have been brought back. And it's really interesting, too, because Swann's attorney said that they were working to get him back on WWE television, and clearly that did not happen. So I don't know what else to say about it. It just sucks for him that this happened. Maybe the Enzo thing played a role in it. I don't know. Jexy, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's crap. You know, he had already been cleared. And if they were going to do something about it, they should have done it a long time ago. It's already been weeks since even anything happened with Enzo. And if you're looking for stories to die down and to go away, bringing them up a month after the fact is only going to get people talking about it again. It's only going to refresh people's memories. It's not going to make it go away. It is very clear that they are trying to send messages that if you do something that's going to bring negative press and negative attention to the business, you're done. Understandable, as it should be. But his wife is also a wrestler.
Yeah.
She also has come out with her side of the story. So it's just very interesting that they make this choice right now when it should have been something that was already under the bridge and done with. It's sad. He's a good competitor. He's got great charisma, good in-ring work. Sad.
And it would be interesting to see if Cena did something like this, if Roman did something like this. Be like Vito said, if Triple H did something like this.
Double standard.
Yeah, and they would cover it up, or they would, you know, oh, but this, it was a misunderstanding. You know what I mean? Because those are the main players. Go ahead, Vito.
Well, you guys got to remember something here. There is a double standard. So what you guys are forgetting is when Cena has his divorce, that was very messy. When Rollins had the naked pics come out because he was cheating on his girlfriend, that was very messy. When there were other instances that happened.
Bray Wyatt slept
Bray
with
Wyatt.
Well, allegedly, right?
Right, but allegedly with JoJo when he left his wife. So you talk about these things that happen within the boundaries of a company, and you're saying, okay, you're not going to suspend this one, you're not going to suspend that one. And Rollins was in the heat of his push, and those pictures showed up because he was messing around, and they let it go. Cena, when he was having problems with his wife, they let it go. They dialed it down for him. They dialed it down. But the one thing everybody misses here is I think that the way they got out of it very cleanly is the way they reported it is they mutually came to a parting of the ways, meaning they paid him out his contract.
Right. And he's already got a show coming up in March that he's doing.
So they paid him his contract. Go away quietly. No lawsuits. No nothing. Don't sue me because of an alleged thing. Because you can sue your company over that. Because you lose your job over something that didn't happen. So I think WWE smoothed it over. Paid if he had a year and a half left. Was it in about a year and a half on the company? It's usually get a 3-year contract. So if they get that, they had to pay him a year and a half worth of his salary. So a year and a half, they paid him off. Okay, go into the sunset. Glenn, listen, when things die down, we'll call you. That's the standard, standard stuff they tell you. And
right, I just think. Well, because when that stuff went down with Pat Patterson back in '92, they had Patterson leave, and then he came back like 6 months later once the heat had died down. So that very well could be the same situation with Rich Swann, where they bring him back in 6 months once the heat has died down.
And he did that with a lot of steroid guys around the 92 also, like Bulldog and Warrior. You know, I mean, they were in and
Hogan,
out
and Hogan took
times.
that leave of absence for a year until the heat died down.
Yep. So, yeah, you never know with WWE. So, Vito, you brought up Triple H, and I want to talk about this in depth from all of our perspectives. So, Vince McMahon is gearing up for the XFL, and to put his attention, because it failed, and Vince McMahon does not like failing. I wonder what would have happened if he couldn't beat WCW back in the 90s. Would Vince have been on suicide watch? So Vince is now probably going to put even more of his attention into this XFL coming up. With that said, that leaves the reins, no pun intended, to Stephanie and Triple H to run the show. Now, we all know Triple H has his handprint on NXT. Is this going to be too much of a workload? Because Vince could handle it. And Vito, you know better than us, Vince's workload. I mean, we've heard it from people that have worked with Vince McMahon, like Vince Russo. This guy just doesn't stop. First one at the office, last one to leave. Can Triple H fill these shoes, and will his vision of NXT overtake Vince McMahon's vision of what sports entertainment should be? Aaron, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts in general of Triple H being, is it going to be Stephanie? Is it going to be both of them? Of basically taking the role of Vince McMahon. I mean, at some point, Vince won't be with us anymore. But Then again, I keep saying he'll probably live to be 120 years old.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, people think like maybe that Triple H will make the main roster like NXT and make it more wrestling oriented and less like character development and that sort of thing, which I don't necessarily think is going to happen. I think Triple H books NXT for the diehard fans, the indie fans, the New Japan Pro Wrestling fans, the fans that want more wrestling and less storylines and characters. They just want straight, pure wrestling. I think Triple H knows that audience and wants to satisfy that audience by giving them NXT. But at the end of the day, I think Triple H knows when it comes to the main roster, you got to have the storylines and characters, and you got to appeal to a wider audience. So I think when it's all said and done, once Vince is out of the picture with Triple H in power, I don't foresee there being a lot of changes. I think it's going to be more of the same with Triple H and Stephanie running it. I don't think it's going to be like anything too drastic. I think they'll be okay once Vince is gone. I mean, Vito, do you think WWE will be okay once Vince is out of the picture?
Guys, you're forgetting one thing, and I hate to break it to you, and everybody needs to get your facts together. There is a guy named Shane McMahon there, and he is in the company, and he does have a hand in this. And I hate to tell you, but like he does, have some say in what happens. And if Triple H is going to be the man who's running NXT, to run one company and you have two kids, like Stephanie and Shane, there's SmackDown and there's Raw, and there's plenty of work to go around. Okay, you're talking about SmackDown, Raw, NXT. You have three individuals, you have three people working together. Okay, and everybody wants to make their mark. So the heir apparent and the obvious, everybody says Stephanie and Triple H, Well, Shane is working for the company now, and he, has his hand in it. Everybody knows that Shane gave up his outside business to come back here because of certain things that were going on, and now he's a part of the WWE again. So when you say when Vince is not here and he's not doing things, well, he does still have the final say, but when he steps away, now you got Stephanie and you got Shane, you got Triple H. I think there's going to come to a mutual understanding that Shane is going to have some kind of say in this. And I think Stephanie is going to have her say. And, of course, Triple H is going to help run the whole thing because husband and wives work together. But I think as an independent woman and a woman looking to make a mark in the business and somebody to follow in their father's footsteps, I think Stephanie will impress her will to do so. And if they do, I hate to say this, but I don't want to see them on TV as characters. I want to see them behind the scenes.
Right. Because
one thing everybody remembers as a wrestler, and these are for all the young wrestlers out there and the old ones who lived it, if you're a wrestler, you're a wrestler. If you're a booker, you're a book. You can't be the book. You can't be the office and a wrestler because you always put yourself in the top angles, and it never works out because you worry about your own angle, and then you forget about the other 7 matches on the card.
Yeah,
good point.
And it's interesting that you bring up Shane. You know, I didn't forget about him, but I think it's, you know, when he left for so long to go do his other business ventures, I feel like I just wonder if his passion for wrestling is a little different than his dad's. Like he likes the spotlight. He likes the death-defying stunts. And again, I don't know Shane by any means and how he operates backstage. It would be interesting to get like a Russo's take or anybody that Paul Heyman, anybody that's worked with Shane. But I just feel like Stephanie has had her talons, you know, as I'm behind my dad as the next person in charge and Triple H by default. I guess that's why I overlooked Shane, because it's just so strong that Stephanie and Triple H are radiating is the next in power. Jexy, what are your thoughts on this, on Triple H? And does Vito have a valid point with Shane?
Yeah, he has a very valid point. I don't think there's really going to be any problems. Triple H himself has already been on the business side of this for at least 20 years. Yeah. He was doing business meetings with Vince. He was working with creative when he was in DX. He knows what it takes to put on an entertaining show. He knows what the fans are looking for. Even if they don't necessarily follow along with it, they still know what we all want to see. And through, he genuinely loves the business of professional wrestling. He's not going to let anything happen to it. I think that he is in 2018 advancement enough that he will listen to other people around him. But I don't see that there's going to be any problem with it.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to call this. I'm going to say over the next 5 years, 10 years, it's really going to become, and this is just my opinion, Stephanie McMahon's company. I just think that she is her dad's daughter. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but you know where I'm trying to go with that. I just think that she's going to be that person, and maybe it will be Shane, but I just think that's going to be
from everything
Stephanie's
that's been
WWE.
out there, Shane is only a TV performer, and he actually doesn't have anything to do with the business. I mean, that's something that people have been saying online for a couple of years now. So I don't even know
like
if
I
Shane
said,
can get back in
Shane's
it again
heart.
like that.
Shane's heart is in that performance of captivating the crowd in the big spots. So, all right, is everybody ready for the main event? Because we're going to go off kilter here. This is going to be different. Yeah, normally we talk about Raw, SmackDown pay-per-views. Are you ready to turn back the clock?
Let's do it.
All right, so I want each of us to say, and it's not going to be the Attitude Era. We're going back farther. I started watching wrestling in 1987. Vito, what were you doing in 1987? Were you training? Or?
He was with the Mob.
87, I was with the Mob.
Yeah, nice.
The Mob.
And I start there because we were in the golden era. You know, I would say that Vince McMahon, when he, coined the phrase sports entertainment, with the WrestleMania 1, and that was in 85, all the way into the early 90s, we could even say we'll go up to WrestleMania 10. To me, that is your core golden era. Jexy, I'm going to start with you. There were so many great angles and storylines pre-Attitude Era that, I think it's time in an era, and I know this is a NoDQ panel type of discussion, but no, we're bringing it to the review show. What do you think? And you could explain it as the best ever or your favorite, the best storyline, the magic of sports entertainment back from that era. And I hope we each have something different. I will go last, in fear that one of you will probably pick mine, and I'll have to have an alternate. But go ahead. This is our main event today.
Sure. Well, I mean, I was born in 85, so when I look back on it, it's a memory that stands out to me the most. I guess you would say it's a personal favorite rather than just being the best. And it would be the whole storyline with Miss Elizabeth and Macho Man. They were the original power couple of the wrestling business. I don't want to say she was the backbone of the Mega Powers, but she definitely added the spice to it. You have going into WrestleMania 7 with Savage and Warrior, where they had actually split up at that time. Randy was with Sensational Sherry. The end of the match comes around. She turns on Macho Man. Elizabeth's sitting in the crowd. She comes out. They reunite. It leads into, I think, SummerSlam 91, where they have their wedding. You know, Jake the Snake gives her a snake. And, you know, it was just very powerful. When you see moments and you see pictures, the iconic picture of Elizabeth sitting on, you know, Randy's shoulder with the hand up in the air, like, I think of that, and it makes me smile. It makes me remember why I fell in love with wrestling, and it's something that just definitely stands out as just a very special moment.
And Jackson, don't forget, it had the Mega Powers, and the Mega Powers collided. That was, I mean, think about Savage's run from, you know, WrestleMania 3 versus Steamboat, but from that all the way to WrestleMania 8, where he won the WWE Championship again. I mean, that was just a fantastic 5 years, and that was the magic of a wrestling character, wrestling personality. Aaron, that probably was yours because that was my
the Mega Powers.
The whole what Jexy said on Savage's run there. Yeah. But go ahead, Aaron. Well, what did you have?
Well, my pick would have been the Mega Powers with Hogan and Savage. You know, that storyline was a year in the making. They started that at WrestleMania 4, and they slowly built up to it. The dissension between Hogan and Savage, and the little teases like Hogan touching her butt or whatever, and all these little things to slowly build up to it. And then on the main event, they finally did the big angle with Elizabeth getting knocked down and taken to the back and Hogan leaving Savage. That was just an awesome storyline. I love everything about it. Great characters, and the whole love triangle. It's something a lot of people could identify with. And, you know, also the stuff going ahead with Jexy was talking about with Jake the Snake Roberts and Randy Savage with the snake, the cobra, and the whole slapping Elizabeth on Tuesday in Texas. Those were great storylines. So those are some of my favorites. And Hogan and Andre, WrestleMania 3, the setup with Andre challenging Hogan, coming out with Bobby Heenan. And then, of course, the WrestleMania 3 match was historic. Pontiac Silverdome, one of my all-time favorites. So there's a lot of them I could definitely talk about, but those are the top of the list for me. And Paul Orndorff and Hogan, too, was another one I liked.
Very good, very good. And now, Vito, I'm interested to hear what you have to say on this. And I know you were basically getting into the business during all of this time, so you might have a completely different perspective than we do. But
well, I'm going to tell you guys, I started watching wrestling as a kid on WOR Channel 9. So I grew up watching Vince McMahon as an announcer with the interviews at ringside. So I watched the Moondogs, Alfred Sika, Tony Atlas, S.D. Jones, Rocky Johnson, Johnny Rods, Stan Hansen, Bruno, okay, Chief J. Strongbow.
Yep.
Okay. So now you're talking about a time when wrestling was, you know, believable, and you had a lot of believable characters. So you're talking starting from the 70s, and I watched Pedro Morales beat Stan the Man Stasiak for the title, and he only Stasiak held the title for 10 days, and he lost it to Pedro. Pedro being a fan favorite, you know, S.D. Jones being the mid-carder, Tony Gurria. So you're talking about all these guys, Rene Goulet, Baron Miguel Cicluna, Cousin Luke, Hillbilly Jim. So as I'm starting to watch, but there's always somebody that was like George the Animal Steele in his prime, with coming out with the steel bar, you know, and hitting people. But you talk about Bruno Sammartino, and you talk about the best of the best, and the guy who was the man and believed and beloved. The best angle was him and Sabisco. I happened to be at Shea Stadium.
Oh, wow.
With
nice.
the rest of the 44,000 people as a kid. Nice. And I watched this match. I also watched Hogan,
Andre,
and all the other, and Andre at that time. So you're talking, I got to watch something that was believable, bloody, and something that a lot of people believed in because it was heartfelt. So you talk about an angle that really caught your imagination, and something that was well prepared and well worked. I'd have to say the Bruno and Sabisco angle. I know it's before your time, guys, but you talk about 80s, you know, something that's from the 60s to 70s leading into the 80s. I would have to say that. That's not to mention that all the great stuff that happened in the 80s, like Cyndi Lauper and Lou Albano, and, you know, the first WrestleManias with Mr. T and Roddy Piper. Can't stand, you know, Mr. T, and it was a legit, you know, it was a legit shoot that he wanted to fight him and wanted to outbox him, and, you know, he didn't like him. But, you know, you talk about a lot of greatness from the 80s, and you have to start out with the first 3 WrestleManias. I don't remember all the cards, and I don't remember the main players. But if it wasn't for the 70s and the revelation that it brought, and then when Vince McMahon took over from his father and decided to turn it up a notch and make it more of entertainment and more showy, I think that's where you get the full value of what a storyline and an angle is. Right. And if you don't have Bruno and you don't have Zbyszko, I don't think you have the rest of wrestling in this 80s and 90s.
Very solid point there. So that's given those guys a lot of credit, no doubt. And, you know, I feel like Zbyszko was definitely worthy of going into the Hall of Fame. You know, some of the younger fans, I think, didn't give him enough credit for the stuff that he did do during that period. I really enjoyed his speech, too. I think, you know, he did go on a bit long. I was actually at the Hall of Fame when he gave his speech, and some people were like, you know, curtain calling him or whatever the phrase is, where they just try to get on his nerves and that sort of thing. But I think the guy definitely doesn't get enough credit for his accomplishments, especially with that whole feud with Bruno.
No, I mean, and then you talk about, you know, all the stories that they told about Zbyszko bugging Bruno and doing that, and Bruno finally saying, okay. You know, but Zbyszko was a legit badass and was a legit tough guy, and he knew his stuff. He was a student of the game. And if you had to pick somebody who was the Larry Zbyszko, who was the one guy who emulated Larry Zbyszko? Brian Pillman. Definitely. And nobody ever would put that together because the same crazy ways, believable, maybe not the biggest guy in the room, but you knew when he was in the ring, you knew he was legit and he was tough, you know, and he made you believe. And I just don't think that if it wasn't for the Gorilla Monsoons and the Muhammad Ali thing, which I also watched, you know, and all the other stuff that happened during wrestling, David Schultz being another badass and slapping the announcer.
The original Stone Cold.
Yeah, the original Stone Cold. And you're talking about, of course, the Jerry Lawler angle, you know,
Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, Andy Kaufman. So you talk about a lot of stuff.
Brilliant, by the way. Absolutely
it was.
Brilliant.
But when you talk about guys, now we're just talking about what we have here, like that's mainstream. But where do all the angles and all the stuff that comes from USWA in Memphis, Tennessee, in a small station where Jerry the King Lawler was the king in Memphis, Tennessee. And I was at the first Memphis Memory Show. I was opening match. And during the time for that, I learned a great deal about wrestling. I learned a great deal about where everybody started. Who was the original Hulk Hogan? Austin Idol. Because it was Austin Idol's original gimmick where he was doing this with the hand and going that, and he had the long blonde hair. And I said, hey, that guy's doing Hulk Hogan. He said, no, Vito. He said, that is the Hulk Hogan. Yeah. And where did all the great gimmicks come from? Memphis, Tennessee. Anybody know that Coco Beware was Stagger Lee? When he come out with the Stagger Lee thing, he used to come out as a drunk guy and stagger around, you know? And then you're talking about the Boogie Woogie Man and the Moondogs and a guy named the Dream Machine and Phil Nickerson and the Macho Man and Dutch Mantell, the Jarrett's, the Lawless, the Gilberts. Eddie Gilbert came from there. I was involved in one of the greatest feuds ever with the Lawler-Gilbert feud, where it was Tommy Rich, Eddie and Doug Gilbert, and a young Skull Von Crush against Jerry Lawler, the Dream Machine, the Boogie Woogie Man, and Brian Christopher in a steel cage match in Memphis Coliseum. That you could see online if you go Google it.
I was just about to tell people, go find it.
And you talk about a part of history. I am part of history because that was the biggest angle in Memphis, Tennessee. It was believable. Where did they get their ideas from? Memphis. Because in Memphis, the psychology was you got to make it real and believable for the fans to believe. Bruno Zbyszko, it was real because they were like brothers, they're father and son. That was my protege, it's my boy, that's my dad. And the turn. If they don't have that, you ain't got nothing. And it all comes from somewhere, guys. And that's even a smaller part. When you talk about Caribbean wrestling, you have Carlos Colon, and you have Chicky Star, and a lot of guys from the past over there, Abdul the Butcher, and a guy named Bruiser Brody, who was never on the mainstream, but was a killer in every other territory around, and probably one of the biggest stars in Japan. A Stan Hansen, who had a handful of stuff that went with the WWE, but never got that over push. Ivan Koloff, when he broke Bruno's neck, and everybody was like, oh my God. And even Koloff was like, and Bruno said, no, let him go with the title. When the time is right for me to come back, I'll win the title back. And yeah, Ivan Koloff was the biggest heel in the universe because he hurt Bruno Sammartino. Yeah. And then another angle that you guys are missing is the Iron Sheik and Bob Backlund when Arnold Skolin threw in the towel.
Yep.
Now, that was believable. Nobody beat Bob Backlund, but here you have an Olympic gold medalist from Iran who did his gimmick and can be the greatest wrestler of all time. And here he's beating our American hero, Bob Backlund. So you're talking from Bruno to Bob Backlund. And Bob Backlund held that title until I don't even remember who beat him, but when Backlund won the title back, it was a young Kevin Nash in the Garden who beat him in 7 seconds.
Yep. And it's interesting that you went up to that point because I specifically wanted to say the golden era to me went to about WrestleMania 10.
Well, Bret and Owen.
Jexy, yes, Jexy. So when I get goosebumps thinking of Macho and Elizabeth and the power that the story of. Like when he held, put her up on the shoulder, how it all culminated at WrestleMania 7, turned into the wedding, the stuff with Jake. I got goosebumps for one other angle, and that was Bret and Owen, WrestleMania 10. And WrestleMania 10, it always will be my favorite WrestleMania. And again, what was it? Did it have some bad matches? Yeah, but it had Bret and Owen in the opening match. Bret lost to his younger brother Owen. Owen became a star at that point. They never did give him the right push. But, he still feuded with Austin. He had some good stuff. But that whole WrestleMania, to me, that's the magic of storytelling. The beginning of WrestleMania 10, Owen goes over Bret.
Yeah.
Bret, at the end of the show, is the WWE champion when Yoko's doing weird finish, by the way, fell off the turnbuckle. Bret won the belt. As he's celebrating, the locker room's out there. They're all celebrating. The perfect camera angle of Owen in the aisleway, looking with the disgust on his face. Those guys had one hell of a feud that summer, and it went all the way to SummerSlam, a little bit beyond, actually. And I'm going to tell you what, they didn't even want to be seen in public together. These are two close brothers that were giving everything for the business of professional wrestling. And I'm sorry, I get goosebumps when I go back and watch that. I want everyone's thoughts on that. Jexia, we'll start with you. What's your thought on Owen and Bret the feud? And I just wish WWE would have made Owen a little bit more than they did after that. And I don't know. I've heard rumors that Owen didn't want to take Bret's spotlight, and he was okay with it. Would not, Bret wanted to put Owen over. We don't know the truth. Only Bret does, right? But what's your thoughts on that? I thought that was one of the best programs of all time. And I don't care if anyone disagrees with me. That's my opinion. Go ahead, Jexy.
Yeah, it was one of the best matches probably of all time, too. The two of those guys as competitors in and of itself is chemistry that can only really be matched by somebody who is brothers. They raised up together. They've trained together. They're obviously blood. And then going to that extent of not traveling together is it's what I wish we could have now. I wish we could have that type of kayfabe. I wish we could have that type of just realness again, which, there's too much social media to blow all that. But anyway, that's another story. I wish Owen could have gone on to be champion and that he wouldn't have been the nugget and, I don't know. I don't really have that much more to add to it. I think you said it perfectly, but it would have been cool to see Owen at least have a run.
And you know what? Owen still entertained us for years, though. No matter what they booked him in, he knew how to deliver the game. Aaron, thoughts on that?
Well, I just think this is a really interesting discussion and just fascinating to see how much things have changed. You know, going back to what Vito was talking about with Ivan Koloff and Bruno Sammartino, and then with the Iron Sheik.
We forgot to mention Stan Stasiak. We don't want to upset Sean.
But like how outraged fans would get, and you know they would be on the verge of rioting and throwing things, and Roddy Piper, you know, having fans wanting to stab him. I mean, it's amazing how we go from that, and then you know in the '90s it started to wind down a little bit, but you would still have Bret and Owen trying to protect kayfabe, and now it's like people just go on Twitter and just will break character openly, and it's just fascinating how much times have changed over the past 40 years or so. But regarding Owen and Bret, I mean, definitely one of my all-time favorite feuds. And the thing that is so great about that feud and Hogan and Savage, you know, it's all these storylines that people can identify with. You know, the love triangle, a lot of people have been in that type of situation. Brother versus brother, a lot of people can identify with that. And then, of course, Austin and McMahon, you know, your boss, the employee, that sort of relationship. So that's what makes these storylines so great, is that people can identify with them. And I just don't feel that now with WWE storylines. Is there anything on WWE television right now that you can really identify with? Is there any storyline where you're like, you know what, I've been in that type of situation myself? Name one. Somebody tell me one, because I don't.
Well, I mean, you know, Bree getting eliminated by Nikki in the Royal Rumble is nothing like Owen versus Bret.
I mean,
you know what I mean? That's what we get,
jealousy.
though.
It's all about the jealousy with Owen and Bret. Owen just being jealous of his brother's success, and Randy Savage being jealous that people are looking at his woman. You know, that sort of thing. You know,
and let's be honest. Owen made those Slammy Awards worth something, right? I mean, Vito, what are your thoughts? Did you work with Owen?
Yes.
I never asked you that. I mean, elaborate on Owen and Bret. I just thought it was that's the magic I want again in wrestling.
Well, I worked with Bret, and I worked with Bret 4 times when I was in the WWF, and when Bret won the title. I was his first TV match back in 1991, 92, I think. And I wound up working him 4 times. First time I worked with Bret, he was really rough with me, and he saw me wrestle a few times. And after I came back, and it was the next day, and we were in Boston, called me over. He says, hey, I got to apologize to you. And I says, for what? He says, I was a little rough when you were in there. He says, I asked to work with you today. I says, really? He says, yeah, we'll do a couple things, and I apologize. And I became buddies with Bret Hart on that day. And that's when you talk about true professionals. I'm probably one of the few guys in the business who've actually worked with Davey Boy, Bret, and Owen. Nice. You know, and when I met Davey Boy Jr., and I also worked with Kurt Hennig. I met his son. I met them at the same time. And it was like, man, you wrestled my dad. You wrestled my dad. Not too many guys are around him. I wrestled my father. And I met them at the Hall of Fame for Bret. And here I am. I'm wrestling Bret Hart. I wrestled Bulldog. I wrestled Kurt Hennig. You talk about the best in the business, and I wrestled with Owen. You know what I mean? So you talk about wrestling against the whole family. And, you know, Owen was always a good-natured guy, you know, always doing his thing, always working hard. Remember, people, that he used to have the blue blazer gimmick, and he was always under a mask first until they finally brought him out to be Bret's brother, and then he started to get over. And, you know, they were good about it, and, you know, you can't get bigger in the office, and there were probably a lot more ideas we don't know about that probably never transpired. But, like I said, if you make something believable, it's believable, guys. It's just like, I'll tell you, in WCW, if everybody remembers the feud I had with Reno, my brother Reno, I got my ass kicked every week.
Roll the dice.
You know what I mean? Yeah, roll the dice, right? And there we are. I wrestled, and on that one pay-per-view with me and Reno were tag team partners, and Reno wouldn't tag in. I wrestled Chronic for 15 minutes myself.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then, but at the end, when I finally got to tag him, he came in, and he friggin' looked him in. I'm crawling back, and he friggin' hit me with the thing. He paid the guys off. But then I would have my spots where I would pick off all the natural-born thrillers, and I would get my kicks on him, and I would get back at him. And then in, like, like the three-way match and the hardcore matches, I would whoop his ass, like with everything in the house. And then when we had that blow-off where people thought I had, the people were cheering for me. And that's probably one of the best matches that he ever had as a single. And in the end, he got me. You know what I mean? It's like, son of a bitch, I can't beat this guy as my brother. But the people felt the feud. And when we were hitting each other, you could tell it was real in the beginning. And the biggest thing about your angles, guys, it's the announcers. The announcers in WCW always put everything over so dramatically. That's what made it. Just like they did with Owen and Brett. They put it over dramatically. So when you have these types of angles and you believe, you're not only watching, but you're listening to the announcers. And that's what gets your heart felt in them. So, I mean, you know, guys, a lot of great angles. You could probably go through a lot of brother angles, a lot of good fights. I guess in WWE, we're probably waiting for Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy to break up when they, you know, eventually.
They tried that, though. It didn't work out.
So many times.
Yeah.
But you know what? They don't got no brothers. Who they got? The Usos. They're not going to separate them.
Bad idea.
Because they are not going to be singles guys.
No, yeah.
It's going to be too bad. And who are the other brothers they have there? They don't have anything else.
Bludgeon Brothers. Oh, wait. Never mind.
Players. But you know what? You know, and like you talking about the Macho Man and being, you know, believable in his promos and his persona, you know, you're able to do it. And the big thing is that you got the kick out of imitating him. You know what I mean? You got just like Hogan and Macho Man and, you know, any other guy who you thought you can imitate, you know, that was another aura of the sport.
Yeah. Actually, I was at the Oregon Zoo a couple of days ago, and I was wearing my Randy Savage T-shirt, and one of the construction guys just started doing the Macho Man impression out of nowhere. So, you know, you don't get that with current guys now. You won't have some random person start doing an impression of a current WWE guy. It's always the old guys. When I run into people, it's either like Randy Savage or Ric Flair. He started doing Ric Flair, too, you know, styling and profiling. You just don't have that with guys today.
Now, guys, I'm going to put something on you guys since you brought up this nostalgia, okay?
Okay.
All right. Now, the three of you choose who wants to go first. I want to see your best Randy Savage impersonation.
We need Greg Cherry on this.
Yeah, we need Greg Cherry for that one.
Now, we don't need nobody else. This is a four-man panel.
I'll go first to break the ice.
Go ahead.
Snap into a Slim Jim. Ooh, yeah. I tried.
Jexy.
What do you want me to say? I can't do it. Snap into a Slim Jim. I'll break a pencil. Not breaking. Oh, my yeah.
I can't do the voice. The Tower of Power, too sweet to be sour, funky like a monkey. Ooh, yeah. That's all I got.
All right, guys.
Vito, go for it. I know you want to do it.
Since in my house, we have a constant fighter who dropped the best elbow in the business. This is a fight we've had since the day I met this woman. This is the day I've had with people. He's the reason I started dropping the elbow. But when, you know, you look at elbows, you say, okay, the Big Vito special or Randy Macho Man. Let me tell you something. That ECW elbow, nobody got any height or anybody could get like me when I did that elbow. Okay? All right, here we go, guys. Okay. Brother. It's the Macho Man. Hogan. Lust in your eyes. For Elizabeth. Dig it! Yeah!
That was awesome.
You win.
Yeah.
You win. But Greg Cherry would have gave you a run.
Greg Cherry actually does a fairly good Randy Savage impression.
I got more, but I figured I'd just give you a little sample. You know, my wife.
That explains that explains why I wanted to make this the main event today. The magic of wrestling, and it's lost. I want it back. It's not that I'm living in the past, because we could still do great things like this.
Yeah,
but all right, I'm content.
Hogan, you got lust in your eyes. I'm telling you.
Well, I'm content. Thank you, everybody, for another great NoDQ review. I guess it's time for plugs. Aaron, we'll start with you first today.
Oh, gee, what am I supposed to plug? Oh, you know, NoDQ.com, and of course, BigVito.com. Check out his website. Check out the Mr. Clean Big Vito T-shirt. I, in particular, like that one. And make sure you follow Vince Russo and the brand. Big Vito's on there. So I'll just do Vito's plugs, and he can do my plugs and do Jexy's plugs. Vito, go ahead. Do it in Randy Savage's voice.
Oh, yeah! Catch Aaron! Buy some NoDQ NoDQ's hats and T-shirts. Yeah!
I dig it the most.
Thinking. Yeah, Jesse, you're training. Maybe Elizabeth will teach you how to wear some dresses. Oh, yeah!
Hey, Randy, what do you have to say to all the moms out there, Randy?
Well, the moms have been at my house since last week, and they won't happen to leave. Yeah! They're getting some macho love. Yeah, can you dig it?
Can you do the warrior?
No.
That was great. I mean, wow, that was great. I didn't know we were going there, but that is great. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. I see it now, baby.
Just the warrior. No.
Jaxie, do we forget anything for your plugs?
Well, no,
Twitter?
not really. So you guys, okay. The boss, Aaron Rift, decided on Twitter that he wanted to start a competition between a couple of NoDQ members. Between myself, the PA sensation Greg Cherry, and Homeboy Virtue, to see which one of us could get to 1,000 followers first. Guys, Virtue likes fruitcake, and his shoes smell like the inside of a Subway sandwich shop. Go to Twitter, follow me, at Jaxie Rocks, get my count up. Do not let Virtue win. Do not let him win.
What are you offering?
Wow.
What are you offering? Aaron gives the hats. Virtue gives the shirts. What are you offering if you have an autographed picture, you have something you can offer the people to ensure you win?
Sure. I'll sign a picture for you. Give you a self-high five.
I ain't unfollow.
Jaxie, you have the advantage because all the creepy dude trolls are going to follow you. You will beat me to 1,000, but that's okay because it's all about the NoDQ team. So with that said, for Jaxie, for Aaron, for Vito, I am Virtue. You can follow me on Twitter at NoDQ_Virtue, and we will be back next week for another NoDQ review.